All right, I believe we are technically live, and we've already got one viewer, so that's a good deal. So, my name is Jay, and I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. And today we're going to be discussing Section 202 and Section 811 again. There are many new people that have subscribed to this channel. And as many of you know, I have over 200 videos on YouTube and a 20-year career of helping people get housing. And so before we get started, we'll do a few introductions before we get in the video itself and a few announcements as well. So for those of you that are booking consults with me at www.section8consulting.com, which you can find in the live chat window we have here. So this is a live video. So if you're on a phone, a tablet, and so on, you can ask questions about Section 8 and Section 811, 202, and disabilities if you want to while this is live. It'll probably be about an hour's video, so you don't have to stay the whole time. Beyond that, so we are moving into the holidays, guys. And good morning, Mr. Mister. Glad to have you in the channel. And so occasionally you'll see me respond to different people's questions or say hello. So if y'all want to say hello, do so in the chat. All right, so we're moving on to Thanksgiving here. And what I'm seeing play out is what I see played out back in March and again near summer is I think that the impact of evicting, close to 40 million people is now the real effect is starting to happen. The demand, at least for me, with Section8Consulting.com, is I am receiving a tremendous amount of emails and calls every day. And I'm working tirelessly on people's cases to get people housing, to port them to different counties and states. And so I ask for everybody to have patience with that. Anytime you want something, obviously at a discount from the government bureaucracy, these things take time. And so we have to have an understanding that it's not fast. It's definitely not like McDonald's. Sometimes when I'm dealing with housing authorities and trying to get you guys vouchers, they have the option to just sit on emails. They don't always have to respond within 20 minutes. So reasonable expectations. Number two announcement is going to be due to high demand. Look, guys, if you're planning on doing something and you need consulting from me in my business, then I suggest you do so now because we're reaching a critical level where there are a lot of appointments. And so we're probably going to go back to the 1 month waiting list. And it's not that there's a 1 month, almost year round, there's nearly a 2 week to 4 week wait. And we're approaching that again. People are rapidly descending on my website. In fact, y'all managed to crash it twice this morning with booking appointments. So, all right, let's get into the meat of the situation. So, first, I want to address Section 811. Now, a lot of you, in principle, have an idea of what that is. And so, I want to talk about what that is in relation to you having a disability and what we could potentially do in order to get that for you if you have the applicable reasons to do so. So many of you have a mainstream voucher. So I've made some notes. Now, even though I've been doing this 20 years, it's still impossible for me to iterate every part without notes. So um, what we're going to talk about is the reasonable accommodation part first. So the only exception to this rule is if you're disabled. So let's talk about mental health and physical health in relation to that. As many of you know, you most of you have the concept that disabilities are in the range of okay, if I don't have a disability check, then this probably isn't going to happen for me. That is not necessarily true. The Social Security Administration that grants checks for disabilities is a different federal organization. HUD is a different federal organization as well, and its rules are a little bit less strenuous than that of the Social Security Administration. So if you have a mental or a physical disability that meets their guidelines, then certainly the Section 811 program and also Section 202 would be applicable for you. So let's talk about briefly what those considerations are and why they're easier. Just because you're able to claim a disability with HUD, you should also know that that doesn't mean you're going to be able to go to the Social Security Administration. Oh, by the way, I've got HUD because of a disability. Now I deserve a check from Social Security. It does not work that way because the standards are much lower with HUD. So when it comes to disabilities in HUD, you have what we call automatic qualifiers and those that are not automatic. The ones you want to go after are the ones that are automatic qualifiers. It means that HUD or the housing authority has already been sued and that they know that once you're diagnosed with a specific type of disability, there's no rejecting that or saying, well, that's not really a disability. And so there have been many instances where former attorneys, I guess, made bad decisions and they ended up suing over it. And so we do know that on the mental health, schizophrenia, bipolar, access depression number two, those are automatic qualifiers. They cannot deny you on that contention that you have those type of mental problems. And there are many more attached. So I'd rather not go through the full list. On the physical disability side, when you think about touching, feeling, perception, mobility, especially sight, how you're hearing, if those things do affect the quality of life, so the criteria being quality of life, then there's many ways we can get casework from with you. Speak with a professional, whether it's a psychiatrist, a social worker, and so on, or a medical doctor, and then make sure that you have the appropriate chart work to prove that you do have a disability. Now, a lot of you are under the belief that you could just take in your all your filing cabinet and all that and put wheels on it and roll it into the housing authority. They do not care about that. So what they do care about is giving you a very simple form, and that form will have about 4 or 5 check boxes. And so your doctor decides your fate that day when you take it in, whether it's your doctor or your therapist. All right. And let's give some clarifications as to who is qualified besides a medical doctor. As long as this person has worked in the medical field and is a qualified psychologist, psychotherapist, psychiatrist, and so on, even a camp counselor, as long as they have a bachelor's degree in the social work field, then it would be applicable. Now, you can't get friends and family and all that diagnose you. That's worthless. Okay, so beyond that, I see a few more people joined the channel, so I just want to give a few shout outs real quick. Shelby Silverstein, hello, welcome to the channel. Kay Cole, salute you, Jay. I appreciate that, my friend. Donna Forbes, will I qualify for having a physical disability? Well, Donna Forbes, I would first like to hear what your disability is, the diagnosis specifically, and then we could see. Now, I understand it's not a guarantee. And then moving on to the next is Letitia H. This is a perfect subject. Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying it, Letitia. We're hoping to get a little bit deeper in here in a minute. And Kay Cole gives me a few claps and hearts. So let's get back on to this part about the physical disability part. So I think that if we can prove a quality of life issue with you going up and down stairs, so there's many ways we could address it. I'd rather not get too deeply into physical aspects, but let's just say that if you're struggling with your mobility, seeing, hearing, feeling, or perception of things, then more than likely, if we have enough chart work on a medical, we get enough chart work on you, then that should be sufficient to meet that cause. It would be preferable that you have a serious diagnosis of other things. Now, the housing authorities would prefer you to believe, oh, you've got to be dying of cancer and all this other shit. That's not true. The reason they frame up the big diagnoses like that to scare you off. You think, oh, well, hell, I'm not dying of cancer. I'm not dying of HIV, so I'll never be able to get the disability. You see, in principle, by them putting those really heavy criteria out there in front of you, they're telling you the truth, but not the whole truth. It's really an effort to discourage most of you from believing that you even have a disability. So never fall prey to bullshit like that. Oh, by the way, guys, if you know anything about me or been in this channel before, I do use profanities. That's part of the character of the channel. So you may, if you're a Christian or highly ethical or moral person, find me slightly formidable when making videos. But I prefer, that we express things for what they really are in these videos rather than talking to you as if I'm working for Eyewitness News. Okay. So moving on from that. Section 8 applications. Now, two things to consider there. You can't just simply go and apply for that. Once we have a qualified disability, then we can they can make a determination if you fit into the Section 811 program. If you have the disability, then that is more than likely what's going to happen. Now, it doesn't always happen. So if they don't have enough of that, then that's not what happens. Also, in relation to subsidized housing, okay, or using your housing choice voucher, I know that landlords that have multiple units keep in reserve anywhere from 25 to 35% of all available HUD related units available strictly for disability. In addition to that, if you have add-ons for ADA compliance, ADA, those of you that require wheelchairs, ramps, and other mobility, seeing, hearing, and feeling restrictions, or if you have MS, MD, and the many other types of physical or mental disabilities that are out there, then you may require additional things in your unit. I always tell you guys, look, anytime we can find an open unit and utilize Section 811 or get an ADA compliant unit, that we not go to extremes and try to get every bell and whistle. If you do that, you're going to make this much more difficult than it's necessary. Okay. Sometimes just accepting a unit that doesn't even have a ramp, and it may be the best thing to do if it's that hard to get a unit right now. And it's hard, guys. It's extremely hard right now. We're in the middle of Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, for those that celebrate it. And then weeks later, we're going to be heading towards Christmas. And the end of the year, as you know, federal government runs out of money. Things don't get juicy till the first, when we re-up all the cash. And by the way, all that money that we've been seeing throughout this year that's been funded by the United States government, it's just now starting to flow. Up till this summer, they had only released 6%, 6.5% of all federal funding for all of this stuff to help you guys with emergency vouchers and so on. So the money's just now starting to flow. People are scrambling. And also, we're starting to see a lot of developers receive the big money to build subsidy housing and so on. So now I'm reading across pages and pages of, in the news where a lot of new properties are now being built, and this is an ideal time to go out. And when I'm doing casework, I'm really looking for these new buildings for people, because look, if it's never been lived in, that's an ideal situation, rather than going to some old project based housing. So let me give a few cautions with this, guys. If you decide to utilize me for casework or even advice or consulting, I do not assist people with moving into trailer parks, the HUD, or project-based housing. This I just want to be clear. I'm not going to assist anybody with moving into a more terrible situation. If I did that, then I wouldn't be worth my weight in salt. You see my point? So the only type of consulting work that I do for people is where I'm able to improve your life, quality of life. Look, it affects everybody, white, black, Hispanic, and so on. We're not going to move you in a crime-ridden area. I'm not going to consider those options. We only attempt to consider the best options, or we don't do it at all. Okay? Because I have some people, they may be struggling with drugs and alcohol and may prefer to live that way. Well, look, I'm not going to help you move into somewhere that's going to be chaos. I won't. I refuse it, and I will turn down that kind of casework. All right. So just so we're very clear, if you decide to utilize it. All right. So I'm going to answer a few more questions, and we're going to keep moving through Section 811 and 202. Okay, because I know you guys are hungry for this. Uh, Kay Cole says, indeed, Letitia H., we have a new management and they are asking for an updated medical letter for my ESA. The reasonable accommodation form asks, what is my disability? Are they allowed to ask that question? They may, in principle, may ask the question as a diagnosis. They may not review your medical charts. They may not store your files or anything of the such. In fact, after you give them that you tell them you have a qualified disability and a diagnosis strictly, HIPAA law prevents them from even looking at that. They have to give you a form, and that form must be taken to a medical professional so they can determine. And the doctor really is going to be the one that gives you that. You'll see the 4 or 5 check boxes. I wish I had saved that copy. Let me see if I have a copy real quick. That'll help y'all a lot. If y'all could see an actual form for this. Now, it won't be the same with every housing authority, but it'll give you a great idea of what you're going to be looking at. Let's see if I have a copy in the 4 terabytes of information here. So I'm going to take a look. Do I have it? It looks like I don't have a readily available copy, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make that available in the description of this video right after the video ends. So those that want to see what that form would look like, so you can prepare yourself. And look, anytime you want to take and have a housing authority grant you a disability, you first want to arm yourself. That way, okay, here are the 5 questions going to be asked to my doctor. Then you can kind of tailor your case before you meet your doctor, because a lot of doctors, the first presumption is going to be, okay, well, she's in here trying to get a disability check. I don't want to fool with that. I'm not going to sit in no court. This is a monstrous waste of my time. So you really want to prepare with your medical professional. Say, look, this has nothing to do with a Social Security check. This is only for housing. It only requires you to check a box and sign. You've already got my case files. You know what's going on with me, and that's all it is. So you really want to make sure that you're letting that medical professional know, look, this is not about you going to see a judge and a bunch of court dates, because that's why doctors don't want to do that stuff, because they think you're going to go get a Social Security check and then they're required to go for free. And look, doctors ain't got time to do that. But if you tell them this is a HUD and housing related, they're much more receptive. So you have to make sure that you make an appointment. Don't call them about this. Make an appointment where you have their captive attention and then quickly explain before they have an opportunity to reject the concept. All right. Doctors they really hate that stuff when it comes to Social Security checks. All right. All right. So we're going to go back to, let's see, Section 11. So typically, besides the run of the mill things, they're going to be asking about your gender, date of birth, social security, so more, and assets. They're going to want to know whether or not you live in the county. So all the preliminary stuff, and then look, guys, you need to prep at least 30 to 90 days of casework, which means if you haven't been treated for your disability in a while, then you need to go down. And let me tell you something. Even if you're seeing a private doctor, I would highly advise you to go down to the shitty county hospital. Okay, everybody hates that. Even if you got private insurance, go down to the county. Why would you want to go to county where it's insufferable? The people really don't do that great of a job, because the county hospital or state-run hospitals are also county employees. And a referral from a county hospital to a county-owned housing authority makes all the difference in the world. Even if you don't intend on taking a lick of advice from these people at the county hospital for mental or physical health, don't worry about it. You're doing it for one reason. It's a county to county recommendation. It has a lot more power than you going to your private doctor. So do both at the same time. Make sure you've got the approach. So you're building your case. You can't just show up 5 minutes before. Hey, doctor, I've got a disability now, but I need to sign all this shit up. And, can you help me fix this? Now I'm going to pause the video for just a minute because I've got somebody here that needs to walk by. So hang with me for a minute, guys. All right, Todd, come on. All right, so we're going to wait an extra second because he's doing a little bit of work, and so he'll be out in a minute. But anyways, so I think you'll understand the concept. County to county referral is a very important situation when it comes to disability. So it sounds like he's about. Are you coming yet? All right. I told you to give me advance warning. All right. All right. So anyway, sorry about the interruption. All right, so that's Section 811. So, and then all applicable rules do apply with applying for Section 811. So we're talking about you living in the zip code or county. If you don't, then you need to get a real street address, a friend, a family member, or even a hotel room to make sure that your zip code preference and then your normal preferences of being old, a veteran, having a disability, possibly being homeless, suffering domestic violence. So there's a long list of preferences you also want to nail with this. So just because you're disabled, I want to express this to you. Nearly everybody that wants a housing authority is old and has a disability. So you have to be able to distinguish your case better than the other 5 or 10,000 people want to be in the list. That's what I'm really good at, because I look at specifically why housing authorities want to grant these vouchers. And part of the reason why they grant them is preferences. And the more of those you stack, the higher you preferentially become on that list. So it's not just a goal of getting Section 8. You also need to have one of the best applications put in. So you're not going to land at the bottom of the list because you're simply low income. Like I tell people, especially my clients, look, if you're not blind on a Monday and they say they're giving out vouchers for the blind, by Friday, you'll damn near be blind, okay? Or something relative to it. So we're matching the plot and the course of what they're looking for to give the voucher. And we're also shopping housing authorities. So part of the exploitation is perfectly legal. There's no lying about this. We're going after many different housing authorities at the same time. We're doing the open request to see the funding, the levels, the reason why they give them out. So there's a lot of complicated play in doing this. Look, it's taken 20 years for me to find a great way to find a more systematic way to roll through this quickly, so we're not waiting a lifetime. All right, so I'm going to stop and take a few questions here. Goodness, boy, y'all nailing me today with the questions. K. Cole, what if it's already documented at a former housing office? Well, the interesting thing is the policies and procedures of one housing authority may not be applicable to another. Same thing I tell people when you guys want to port or move. You're in Los Angeles, you want to go to New York. Well, whatever they got on file there may not translate to the next one. So you may have to re-qualify, but it's going to be much less of an issue now that it's a matter of record. But don't ever expect one housing authority to treat you equally at the next one, all right? So a little bit of due diligence there would be required. Sharika Terror, I'm bad with names, so don't take offense. I'll just call you Sharika for now if I've got that right. Really kept me abroad in my endeavors. Excellent. K. Cole, 100%. Kathy Houston, welcome back to the channel. I've seen you here before. I want to move north to North Carolina. Can you help me? Can you help me find somewhere? I have a voucher and I can't find a real house in Michigan. Okay, yeah. Well, Miss Houston, that's what I'm gonna call you for now. Yeah, that's 100% of what I do. But we need to distinguish one thing. I consult mostly to be able to help people get vouchers and through the process of that. Now, housing search is not my strong point because it's more what a real estate agent does. I do have the best resources out there because I've had so many years or even decades to kind of figure out the best way to go about it. So I think Miss Houston, I would probably be more used than anybody else out there, but I'm not going to say that my skills are going to be that or greater of a broker. Okay. Mr. Mitchell says hello, Corey Knight, and then Kay Patton was in a situation with my neighbors doing hard drugs. They were pouring into my apartment. The manager refused to do anything to help us after studying and applying the skills she is allowing us to move. That's good. Now, there's lots of remedies. I always tell you, I have about 9 state, county, state, and federal remedies that I use to deal with bad landlords, especially those that want to release you. Like I have a case right now. I've got housing authorities granted the client the ability to move, but the landlord's trying to lock her in. And so the landlord thinks that he thinks he could sit there with a Crayola and his lease and invent whatever fucking rules he wants. And he thinks that his little rules with his little Crayola and his magic marker are going to supersede federal law. So he's fixing to have a bad day when he ends up getting his property levied. And there's all kinds of things I can do to make life extremely painful for a landlord. Trust me, with landlords, when it comes to that, they would presume to just give me and the client what they need versus me to continue to sit there and bring light to what they're doing. So yeah, I'm not going to get too deeply into that because I tend to have a very strong opinion, and so so it looks like we have another comment down here. I'll just call you Mr. or Mrs. Gray. Hello, my name is Mrs. Gray. Well, hello and welcome to the channel. Glad to have you here. Roland Bays, hey man, welcome back. I have SSDI. I will also need to see a doctor to make the property overlords happy. Yes. Unfortunately, yes, that does how it works out. So let's talk about 202. For those of you that are 55 plus, 62 plus, great time to be alive, especially when it comes to vouchers, Section 8, mainstream vouchers, and so on, especially if you have a disability. So I'm going to pull from my case notes on that, and we'll talk about 202 a little bit. Again, that's for seniors, but our concept of what a senior is does differentiate. There's a differentiate of 55 plus and 62 plus. So let's dig into that a little bit. So the basic requirements of the household is, for now, in some states 55, but mostly 62 or better. Number 2, single persons are eligible as well as households with children. In other words, anybody. Now, here's the interesting thing, and this could be played many different ways. If you have at least one person in the household, 62 and older, then it's applicable. You only need one person in a house to be 62, and in some states 55. It doesn't have citizenship requirements. However, you need to be legally eligible to be in the U.S. for those that are curious about that. So household must make 50% of the area median income. So let's talk about AMIs real quick. So every city has an AMI. And so a lot of you like to Google that. Google's not the most accurate representation of the area median income, okay? So you want to look at federal statistics when you do that, but area median income to the housing authority is going to be probably primarily in the county and zip code. So if people in your county are making 100,000, then their expectations to grant you 202 would mean that the household's entire income would be 50% or less. And then you get into more sticky details of what's income. Well, any kind of cash, whether it's cash, check, or whatever, flowing into the house is considered an income. However, you have negative assets, and that would be things like medical costs and children, or even elderly that are retired. So there's ways to actually have a higher income but have negative assets against this that could make you. The thing is, with that 50% AMI rule, you want to make sure you're also coming in as extreme low income. And that's kind of another variation because that extreme low income puts you into higher 30% threshold of getting these vouchers. A difference of 5, 10 years, okay? It could mean an immediate difference for a lot of you guys. Let's see. See, I'm kind of rolling through my notes here and make sure I'm covering everything that I need to. Now, it's going to be strongly considered on preferential basis. In other words, those of you, let me pull up preferences real quick so we can go through those again for you guys for the 202 program. Because I can tell you right now, if you have some of these preferences, you're going to do better than the average person that's 62 and older, okay? So, if you have a veteran status, obviously your age comes in, extreme low income. If you are imminent homeless, which means you're housed, but you're about to lose your housing or you're already homeless, a qualified disability, receiving SSDI, SS, and survivor benefits could be a help to you. Award letters from county treatment. Also, those of you who have suffered domestic violence, that is the highest category of all of them. In fact, it has special federal rules that if you're 62 and older, plus you mix in DV, homeless, or other issues, they would end up being forced into housing you twice as quickly, which means on a preferential level, utilizing Section 202 in addition to DV would likely put you in the highest percentage to get a voucher very, very quickly. Moving on to that, they did add preferential points for race. So if you're African American and in some cases Latino or American Indian, there's a small amount of points. Look, it's not earth shattering, okay? Like sprinkles on a cake, not a big deal. All right, so two different programs, both of them coming from the perspective of disability. Establishing your case is very important. Understanding that you do not need to meet the high criteria necessary that an extreme low income, and also, like I said, your geographical where you live does play a big part of that. And the main point that I preach in every video is having all the special preferences. And for those of you that are trying to seek emergency vouchers, you cannot mix that with Section 811 and Section 202. You can only take one of the goodies. You can't do both at the same time. So there's no such a thing as emergency Section 202 or emergency Section 811. You're going to have to get it one or the other. All right, so let's take a look at these questions. Cole says I'm on fire. Well, I got to take a breath, folks, because that was a rolling through it quickly. All right. Letitia H. I've been in the Section 8 housing for 8 years. I recently called. They said I have to take what the hell? Another 4 years. I don't think so. Letitia, I think you talked to an idiot, and that happens a lot at housing authorities. Let's discuss the housing authority and their employees real quick. So you guys have a correct understanding of who these people are and what they can and cannot say and do. A lot of you think that whatever they say is the end of the road, that it's written in gold and they are the housing authority gods. They are not. They do not make the rules for HUD and DC. They are not federal employees. And a lot of shit they say on the phone they would never do by email. Trust me on that. How do I know this? I have over 100 people that email me that are former or current employees of housing authorities, and they'll be the first to tell you that the vast majority of the staff there are the equivalent to people you could probably hire at Taco Bell. For as little as $100, they can get a certificate that allows them to be a housing specialist. Many have never even read their own fucking manuals, okay? And so a lot of these chaotic answers you get from them is because they usually just don't know. Housing authorities, in principle, the primary people running that's in-house counsel. If they have an in-house attorney, you may have a director of services, and you may have a manager. Everybody else there is just fruitlessly stupid. Now, I don't mean that on a personal level because I know a lot of people work there, but I'm just saying they don't receive really any adequate training. I mean, their job is picking up a telephone and data entry. They're not apprised of Title 24. They don't. Most of them have never even read a policy procedures manual. They have no true look. I've gone toe to toe with housing authority employees in the past, and trust me, that phone line goes dead many, many times in the middle of the conversation because they realize very quickly they're getting beat over the head with a bat. They don't even know how to respond to half the stuff I say. I've had a few actually sit there and try to bald face lie to me, and especially when I quote verbatim federal law, and then they end up, well, just shut up. If you don't know, lady, just shut the fuck up. You really don't know. I'm not even sure how you got that job. So You'll have to forgive the profanities, but the shock and awe campaign always starts when I talk to these idiots at the housing authority. And you've got good ones and you've got bad ones. And that is what it is. Like anything else in the government. But it's important to understand housing authorities or county employees, they are not government officials. Okay. All right. So I'm taking on questions real quick. And so cold case says 202 and DV. So a good mixture on your case file would be a very good mixture would be you have a disability, you're extreme low income, you have domestic violence, and you may be quite, um, you're dealing with homelessness. That would be a hell of a mix. Would do very well. Just to let you guys know, there are certain combinations that definitely will prioritize you very high on the list. Also, guys, focusing on counties with populations less than 150,000 but more than 25,000 is the optimal number for an area. When you start addressing cities of a million and so on, you also are applying in places where you have an extremely dense homeless population, which plays a big factor in the number of vouchers and funding that gets drained out of that city. And so that's why I tell you never put one egg in one basket, because if you can get a voucher quicker, 45 minutes away over the county line, then why the hell would you sit there and wait 8 years for that housing authority in the big city to call you back? Once you get that voucher 40 minutes away, within 90 days, we can start the portability process to shoot you right back in the city. It's a very clever way of cheating the system. And so that only goes to speak of how I understand how these things do work. And sometimes you have to be clever. Look, we're also, as I had mentioned about Thanksgiving and Christmas and the end of the year, let's make no mistake, the money's running out, it's drying up. And a lot of you guys are still twiddling your thumbs with this. Oh, well, I filled out an application last week. Well, so what? So what? Anybody can fill out an application. If you're not given the right preferential answers, I'll give you an example. I talked to a young lady about 2 days ago. She put everything perfect on the application. It was rather stunning. I rarely get people do that right. But she checked one wrong box, and that box right there would have pre-authorized for her to perjure. In other words, it was to eliminate her. One question. Okay. So if you don't think these applications aren't designed to ask questions, to probe, to terminate you, you're out your mind. You're under the belief this is here to help you. Well, certainly it is if you can get through the gauntlet of it. There's now also pre-applications and primary. The pre-application, that is probing to eliminate, if I've ever seen it. Pre-application is just like a credit card. Hey man, if you ain't got what they're looking for within 3 questions, then they're going to get rid of you. And then there's no going back to give a better answer. Once it's a matter of public record, they got you on database, you're locked out for a year. So a lot of you guys are really like to gamble a lot. And then you call me, hey, well, I don't understand why I can't get into the Atlanta housing. Well, it's simple. You're never going to voucher there because you said every possible wrong thing you could in that application. You had no understanding of what the federal rules are, federal regulations, and then you certainly didn't know the policies and procedure for the housing authority, and you had little no understanding what that housing authority was actually looking to give vouchers out for. It's you go apply. Housing authorities can have all kinds of reasons. I was right now. I'm not going to say the state, but if your house burned down, they're looking. They have the funding only for that. So it's important you're probing these housing authorities to find out what the specifics are as to why they grant them. You could be in a wheelchair with cancer with both eyeballs missing and 1 foot, and that not be sufficient to get you a voucher next 15 years. But your house burns down, and that housing authority is willing to give out vouchers for that. That's part of what I do is to make this determination. Look, I always tell you, if you don't have what it is they're looking for to kick out that voucher, then that's how we need to make your case match that. You guys are going in blindsided with this stuff, filling your name and number. You're filling this stuff out like you're filling a credit card applications. That's not going to work. One answer does not get it. And, if they've got 12 check boxes, they got 12 preferences, every one not checked, it probably means another 2 to 3 years of your life you're going to wait. Look, if they're going to ask you questions and preferences, when you look at it and you think, oh, wait, hey, this question here, this could never be about me and my family. We probably don't meet that because the question was asked in a very clever way. Didn't I tell you all about the disability aspect of this? They'll put on there here. You know why they put examples of disabilities on a lot of these applications? Because what does it primarily do? Oh, well, you need to have cancer, wheelchair, near death, hospice. So, what does that mentally do to you when you see examples like that? It makes you believe that almost any other problem you could have would not be good enough, so why bother? You see the point, it worked on you mentally. But what they didn't finish the sentence in saying, when they were being clever about showing you those extreme examples, was the other 2,200 reasons you could have claimed a disability. And this is just the kind of shit that you're going to find on applications. They're hoping they can mentally get you just to say fuck it and not do it. So if you don't really know what you're doing, it's just you. Well, I would suggest that you get yourself educated as quickly as possible so you don't end up waiting forever. I've got people, oh, the other day, the guys, it's been 12 years. My friend, if you're still waiting after 12 years, not waiting unless you probably are not going to ever get a voucher. Because I see, that comes down to just giving bad answers. So, all right, I got to let my lungs rest for a minute. Speeding right through this. So I don't see any further questions, guys. This is what this video is about. If you want to talk about 202, Section 811, if you would like to talk about VAWA for domestic violence, HUD bash for you veterans, now would be the time. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up the video because I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to either give you all the information you need and encourage you to book an appointment if you feel that you fully cannot get through this and you could use the extra help, then do so. I'm not here to sell anybody anything, okay? It's strictly based on your good opinion. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to give you all a couple links because I believe due diligence is always the best way to do this. One, this is if you want to book an appointment and you have a reason specifically why you need the help. You're tired of not sleeping and you don't want to spend the next 20 years trying to figure out what I know, then that's fine. Then book the appointment. That's good for you. Number two, people have questions. I get that. So the best way to answer questions is obviously to ask them. But, here's the website. Lots of things are said there. I would suggest that you investigate my website for what it is and get the kind of answers that you need. Number three, I'm going to give you reviews, okay? People love this stuff. And let me make something very clear. This link right here, and let me go ahead and give it to you. This is the reviews, and you can also find a review link in the description. Anybody can leave a review. You don't even have to book me. You're welcome to, you know what, guys, if you're having a bad day and it make you feel better to say the most horrifying things about me, I welcome that. I'm not scared of reviews. In fact, I encourage people to leave whatever they want in those reviews. I do not care. Okay? I don't live and breathe stuff like that. I'm not a child. And so I already know my reputation very well, and I think most people do. You look it up on Google, I'm number one there. You look it up on YouTube, I'm number one there. I didn't arrive there by being a party clown or making videos for tips and tricks. This is not what I do, okay? I'm very serious about what I do. So utilize those reviews for whatever they're worth. And if you dislike me intensely, please leave a horrifying review. I'm all for that. I'm not scared. So anyways, the reviews are there if you want them. Beyond that, I'm going to take a look at a few more questions, see if there's any other way that I can be of help to y'all. And if not, then we'll start wrapping it up, okay? And besides, I'm going to, I got a little bit of personal stuff I'm going to address in the video here in a minute. Crystal Addy, hey, welcome back. You should admit that you had to spend the night in jail 45 years ago. If it was on your borderline juvenile adult record, that the courts... Okay, so I see what you're saying, Crystal Addy. You know what? Arrest records and all that. Look, when it comes to the housing authority, what only matters to them is the last 7 years of your life. I don't care what you guys have done. Look, I had a guy that was in federal prison for bank robbery. The guy robbed 7 banks. Now, if I went out there and got the man a voucher 35 days later, what would it matter if you spent a night in jail 80 years ago for being drunk? I've got former crackheads, meth heads, prostitutes, gang members, okay? The elderly. The only people that have to struggle the most with this that almost nobody's going to take is somebody that's been charged as a sexual offender, depending on what it is. So I'm not too concerned. You don't have to put your business out in the street. Look, Martha Stewart's ass went to prison. I'm not worried about that. Half the governors in this country have been in prison. I don't judge people, and nor should you put your business out in the street for these housing authorities. It's none of their business. And let me tell you something. People have gone to jail, gone to prison. They served their time. They're done, and that is it. Most people are just trying to fix their life. So yeah, I have every Crystal, you have every right to go after housing. Most of you have all worked, whether you're going to jail or not. We've all worked. You paid taxes, and this is Section 8 and housing vouchers are the consequences of that. That is the privilege of being American, and you should be able you should be able to utilize the system. So let's sitting here choking. um, Dada Daviva, man, today, you know what, guys? Today, y'all give me some difficult names. Y'all got to do better on the YouTube. I think they're great names, but I mean, y'all really working me with these YouTube names. So, does Section 8 11 work like Section 8 choice voucher? Let's go into a short lesson about that real quick, okay? Because I know you guys tend to get a little confused about vouchers and how those work. Let's pretend this is a voucher, okay? Vouchers are just a voucher. It's what's attached to it. So, if you're a senior and they connect 202 funding to it, then it becomes a 202 voucher. If you're a disabled person under 62, then they attach funding from Section 811. You see my point? It's what's attached to it. So one voucher could be anything, it can turn into any color. All right. So you don't go in and say, hey, may I have a menu of vouchers? And so the question is a housing choice voucher is also a mainstream voucher? It's many things. It's what's the funding that's attached to it. And so we talk about like Section 811 being part of the federal code. Those are codes, just like they have tax code and all that. So, yeah. So you're right. To answer your question, yes. Apprentice Gray, I have a disability, paranoid, and schizophrenic. So if you have that diagnosis of Mr. or Mrs. Gray, yeah, you're already pre-qualified. Roland Bays, your website is impressive. Hey guys, let me show you something about this website of mine. I want to tell y'all the logic behind this because a lot of people discourage me from this website. Let me tell you why. I really, really want to give that answer. Finally, I'm glad Roland brought that up. So, when I originally made videos in this channel, I used to make thumbnails and I would put these shitty looking houses. They look like crack houses. And I'd make a video, hey, let's go out and get Section 8. So, what would be the inspiration? So, the website link is there. It's also in the description. Take a look. Look, I made a choice from the beginning that the only way that I was going to represent these vouchers and my clients was to ensure I didn't send them to a crack house, to project based housing, in the hood, in the trailer park. Every race has a different concept of what a bad neighborhood is, right? So when I made this website, I wanted it to be under the understanding that I could show you the best of what could be out there so y'all could see it for yourself. If I made a website with a bunch of rundown shotgun houses, right? Would y'all ever want to hire me for that? Would you think, well, this guy's crazy? He wants me to pay to go live in a project. So yeah, I built an amazing site because I absolutely want y'all to think in those terms. Is it possible for y'all to go and live in a building with a gym and a doorman? Probably not. Okay, let's be reasonable. It is a bit dressy, but shit, yeah, it's my website. I wanted it to be nice, and I really wanted people to have a high standard of what they thought of what I'm doing. I hope I haven't misrepresented myself in that fact, but yes, I wanted to be nice. Thank you, Roland, for bringing that up because that really did touch a spot I've been meaning to itch for a while. Corey Knight, I thought it was only for women and children. Well, Corey, I think that you have the wrong concept. We don't have vouchers for just women and children. No. Maybe in 1980, back when they used to drag gay people behind a truck and crazy shit like that, and back in the old racist Jim Crow days, we had vouchers like that possibly, but no, we don't do anything like that. It's not. We don't have programs for just one color person or one gender person. Vouchers under federal law are equal. Now, whether we have an equal opportunity in any of us, I always tell people. So I got white folks, man, that call me. Maybe they're slightly prejudiced, okay? And I usually get rid of those folks because I don't want to deal with them. But let me make something very clear here, guys. It wouldn't matter what color you are or what gender. It is an absolute perilous pain in the ass to get a voucher. Let's make no mistake. I don't just spend a month working on cases because this is easy and I can just go out there and do what the hell I want. Of course, it's difficult. And then after you give the voucher, Then you go on to second, it's like World War II. You're out there, you're looking for a place, and you're getting a lot of rejection. So a lot of my job is preparing y'all for a lot of rejection so that you don't give up. It's giving you a perspective to see things before they play out. That way you're mentally prepared. I mean, 40% of my clients do suffer from some form of mental setback, okay, or problem. And so they need that extra boost to keep them going just long enough to get accepted. So the job I do sometimes has a lot to do with psychiatry. And even for those of you that don't suffer from this type of problems, a lot of people are already been broken by the system because of how they're being treated like trash. How many of you have called the housing authority and talked to somebody that talked to you like a $2 hooker? I'm serious, talk to you like shred up trash, like you were just ignorant. How many times you ever get on the phone with the housing authority and talk to somebody that actually had an educated answer, was pleasant to talk to? Now that's a rare jewel, isn't it? Please raise your hand in here. Let me know if they stopped, did a prayer circle, and really cared about you. Most of the people at the house door don't give a shit what happens to you. That's my job. That's your job. But that's certainly not theirs. You're nothing but a number, and if you keep calling an email, you'll become an annoyance to them. So if you guys have this fantastic idea that this is supposed to be easy, it's not. That's what people pay me to do so they can go to sleep at night. Because who the hell wants to deal with this shit? Nobody wants to talk to a snot-nosed woman with an attitude at the housing authority that can't give you one fucking straight answer. And that's a lot of what this is. So let's just be honest with each other. And I had a lady the other day, oh, yeah, you better have that voucher in 3 days. I said, well, here's your refund, you lunatic. I don't have time to deal with silly people either. Realistic expectations, folks. I don't deal. Look, if you spend your whole life being a suburban mom and you're delusional and you think I'm just going to have you a voucher in 3 days, get the hell out. You're not ready yet. Call me when you're out there under the bridge in a tent. And when you put your ass in check and you realize what life's really about, then we'll start talking about actually getting you help. That's the thing, guys. Y'all got to lose the attitude. I certainly won't do that. I'm already busting my ass trying to create damn near miracles to help people. So the last thing I'm going to do is encounter people with an attitude. You can keep that shit at home. I'm not the type. I'm always straight, honest, and straight up with folks when it comes to that. You can have that business. Look, you can spend a Christmas at the homeless shelter. You call me when you get right. So anyways, I know that's a bit comical. So all right, let's take a look see if we have any other questions. Corey Knight, let's see, I already did it with Ron. I'm 65. I have a mobility disability. I live in LA, but I work full time. My income is below the AMI. So, Ron, I think in principle, you already named a lot of reasons. So, you're over 62, you're disabled. Now, the big problem I do see is where you live. The full time employment does prove that you have a credible way of working. We'd want to mix in a few more preferentials to that to give you a better chance at this. And I also think you should be addressing subsidy property that does work with lich, because you might have a fairer chance. As it stands now, there's over 400 properties we could explore in the LA area. Man, this energy drink's really got me bubbling today. So, all right, moving on down. Hey, Gamey, I see you back. You always get that neat little name. So if you're converting from a elderly property tenant, okay. Well, Gamey, what I would say is this: if you're tenant based, the funding's attached to the unit. So when you leave, you have to start over. But if you're clever, if you're smart, you'll make an attempt to get a recertification and then convert that TVA tenant-based voucher over to housing choice voucher and then port somewhere else. Okay, it's a bit of a process, but it's certainly doable. And of course, adding other factors in, as I mentioned, domestic violence, DB, and homelessness. And look, guys, a lot of you guys believe you have to be truly homeless to claim that. You don't. You don't. Let me ask you a question. Do you think the housing authority of all 13 people that might work in that building, do you think they're walking around with camcorders? Do you think they're sitting in the bushes watching to see if you push a key in a doorknob? No, of course not. They barely have any money as it is. All right? So if you're not on a lease and you do not have a mortgage to a home, then who is going to prove that you're not sleeping in your car? Now, you have to make a few ethical decisions about how you intend on giving your answers. And I'm not suggesting anybody lie, but I'm just saying that's the cold reality. If you don't have a lease unit mortgage, you're homeless. All right. And with that preferential mark on that application, it's going to shoot you light years ahead of other people that aren't. Okay. And the more of these you guys stack, the better it gets. There's no other simpler way to explain that. There's more complexity to it, but I'm just saying that stacking these things do help. Keiko says, I'm already documented in place where I was originally victimized. I'm sorry to hear that. Mr. says, yeah, I'll be booking my appointment real soon. Mr. I look forward to it. I look forward, and look, the guys, I always look forward to doing business with you. I'll let you always be your own judge of whether or not I'm worthy of helping you. I take more pleasure than you can imagine in wrecking and destroying, exploiting, and whatever I can legally do within the limits of the law with housing authorities to get you guys what you need faster. If it was a fair system, you would already have it. You wouldn't be in this damn channel watching me. If it was an even, fine system, you'd have it. So all that I'm really doing is using my experience and my talents to, one, exploit that system, understand fully what they do. And how do I do that? I don't hang out on YouTube giving tips and tricks, and the next week I'm going to be an expert at fidget spinners. Okay. What I do is I compel them under the federal law to give me their policy procedure manual. Look, once I actually know what it is they're doing there, once I know those reasons, and I compel them to give me that documentation. You understand? That's a lot like having the keys of the kingdom. It means I know as much as they do. Now imagine doing that hundreds of times in over 50 states. There's not a game these people haven't tried to play. I've heard every scenario play out, every one you could imagine. There's no new game to be played with me when it comes to housing authorities. I've seen everything they could ever throw. They can't even create anything new anymore. Okay. But one thing that I've had the advantage of doing, it was refining. So once I've had hundreds of housing authorities to play the game with me, I've had time to experience all that. And guess what? Now that I know how to counter just about anything they do through virtue of experience, they really don't have a chance in hell against me. Now, does that give us greater odds? No. It just means we need to be smart about where we're applying, what we're actually doing, utilizing for preferences, and getting the hell out of the big cities. Okay. If you want to go back to the big city after you get a small time voucher in a small town, that's fine. But this works best when you get out of the major city and then port back in. Okay. So, guys, man, I got to tell you, this was a bit of a long video, 52 minutes. We got 8 more minutes. I'm going to leave this open for those that want to speak or ask questions. And then after that, I'm going to shut it down. And we're going to be seeing y'all again Sunday. And we're going to talk a little bit more. This time, I'm going to reveal a PHI guide. And let me tell you, this is the kind of manual that makes them almost pee down the side of their leg because they really don't want you to know. Okay, it tells you a whole lot. So when I get that, I'm gonna give it to y'all, and I hope you stick it to them. I really do. So I see a lot of Sonia, hey, welcome to the channel. So let's get into announcements. We got about 7 minutes left. So as I mentioned, we're gonna be closing for Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, obviously. I can't even imagine doing a consult with somebody on those days. Also, the new year, as y'all know, I'm going to be moving to Arkansas. So those that don't know and haven't watched a lot of my videos, I have a bunch of cats, and we're taking those 22 and we're going cross country to Arkansas. Okay. I chose there because there's a lot of land and houses are inexpensive. And it's just what these cats need a big space to get out there and be what they are, a cat, not this. I'm tired of the big city. So there will be a period where the channel will be shut down for a week or two. It's an 8-hour drive from Houston, and I won't be able to maintain both. And then I have to set up internet, electric, and all that in the house. And the house won't be brand new. It's going to be a house from the 50s. So this is new, but where I'm going is not. And it's because I like busy work, and that house means that I get to play carpenter, and hopefully I don't turn it into a haunted house. So it gives me something to do more than what I'm doing now, and I think I'm going to enjoy that. Plus all the acreage. Anybody wants to come mow that lawn, please give me a ring. All right, beyond that, other thing I was going to tell you guys, I know we have been talking about me buying that Cadillac. Okay, so I want to tell you something. I'm not buying a brand new one. I'm not crazy. I'm not spending $70,000 on 4 wheels. That's nuts. It's going to be several years old. because those damn things devalue. The minute you drive them out the car lot, the value of the car just drops like a rock. So I see no point in buying anything new, and I'm certainly not going to pay for full coverage, which is almost a rent note. Anyways, looking at the Cadillac CTS, but I'm also looking at the SRX, which is the kind of like the SUV version of it. Because I have a lot of cats to transport, and I'm still. How do you transport this many? That's the question I and my vet, and some of them I'm gonna have to give them a Quaalude. I don't. I mean that jokingly, obviously, but I'm gonna have to dose a few of the cats. Some of my wilder ones, they're not gonna understand what's happening, and to take an 8-hour trip with howling, hissing, and all that is going to be difficult. And no, I'm not going to throw my cats in the back of a U-Haul, but it's going to be a hell of a ride. And so trying to figure out options for all of these guys, and then yeah, it's a lot, man. Gosh, and I'm doing this by myself, so I think that covers all of our updates. And again, guys, I'm here. I'm here to serve those that need it the most. Let me tell you, while we finish up the last few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes here, this all started because I used to be homeless a long time ago. Okay, made a video about it if y'all want to see that. I went out there, I dealt with this shit firsthand. I know, back from back then. And then that was 25 years ago. So let's think about it this way. 7 years, almost 8 years now on YouTube. Thousands of people, thousands, literally thousands. If I died tomorrow, I would not have a single regret or taking my last breath. I think that I've done everything I can for this world. So I hold no regrets in anything I've ever done. And to this day, the feds have never come kick down my door because I've done something illegal. So I think that my reputation does stand alone. I don't think there's anybody else on Google or YouTube that is better than me. I, in fact, think that even the second best consultant in this nation is light years behind me. I'm very, very clear about that. Had you asked me that 5 years ago, I would have questioned it. I no longer question that. Even with the big companies out here where their only objective is to clock in and make money. I do this because I'm quite passionate about it. I enjoy it. And the more I get to win against the system itself, the more that I feel great about it. In other words, I get a kind of a twisted pleasure out of actually winning the cases for you guys. Okay. So it's never about clocking and making money. I don't make my primary income from YouTube or consulting work. I only do a limited amount of it anyways. If I had to live off what YouTube was paying or these little consults I do with you guys, I would be in trouble. I certainly wouldn't be buying a Cadillac. Okay. So, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you all today. I think this is maybe the best time to wrap this up. And then I look forward to speaking with you on Sunday. And who the hell knows what we'll be talking about. But I think we're going to pull up a PHI guide and we're going to go through some of that. Unfortunately, it's 475 pages. It's quite intense. But I'm going to break down a few elements of it that should help give you a better inside look of how HUD and your housing authorities are working behind the scenes, so you have a fine understanding of how to navigate the system, because this is what it's all about. We've created a monster that doesn't work very well, and everybody's going in blindsided and just hoping they get what they can, and a lot of disappointment is happening. So last warning, guys, we're moving into the holidays. We're going into about a 1 month wait. If you need to utilize any part of what I offer, you better do it now, because there won't be any tears about it when I tell you guys, look, the next appointment won't be till the new year. So I'm just warning you, because a lot of you wait till the last minute. Some people are calling me literally with their stuff in storage and they're actually checking into a homeless shelter. Do not wait that long. Okay. The farther down you go and then call me, the more work this ends up being. I don't mind working, but it's hard to help somebody when they waited so long that it was just stupidity. Now, I understand a lot of you have fear of your situation, but the best way to address that fear is just to get the business. At some point, you got to say, it's enough of the bullshit. I need to get started with this. I may not have every answer, but I need to move on, because housing is a serious issue. And a lot of you guys would never survive on the streets or in shelters or living in some rundown hotel where you've got crack dealers and prostitutes. Okay. Do not let your life run that far, because it gets so much harder to get you out of that. Once you reach that point, exiting homelessness is very difficult. And those are some of the most difficult cases. So I'm just saying, stop this before it starts. That way we have something to work with. All right. All right. I love y'all. I'll see y'all Sunday. Okay. Bye-bye.